Before the Eiffel Tower, before gas lamps, before electricity hummed quietly in every room, Paris slept in a darkness so deep you could forget your own hands. In the 18th century, the streets of the French capital were a puzzle of shadows, twisting alleys, guttering candles in windows, silence except for footsteps and the occasional scream. Tonight, you will walk those streets, not as a noble, not as a poet, but as a watchman, cold, tired, and underpaid. You'll follow a story of diamonds and deception, descend beneath the ground to where bones line the walls, and end the night in golden chambers where kings rose at dawn only when the court said they could. It's past midnight. The wind cuts through your coat. Your boots are soaked from a puddle you didn't see. Your lantern sputters, and the drunk man yelling in the alley is armed. You are a night watchman, and it is your job to keep order in a city that has none. In 18th century Paris, the streets were barely lit. Some homes placed small lamps in windows, but most relied on the moon. And men like you, armed with a pike, a lantern, and a whistle, you walked your assigned quarter each night. Your job: stop crimes, report fires, escort the wealthy, and most importantly, stay alive. But you were not beloved. Most Parisians saw you as a nuisance, or worse, as a tool of the corrupt police. If you stopped a thief, you might get blamed for starting the fight. If you ignored a scuffle, you were called lazy. Either way, you were underpaid, undermanned, and often in danger. The neighborhoods were uneven. In the Faubourg Saint-Antoine, the alleys were narrow, the people poor, the tempers short. In the Marais, nobles wandered from salons late into the night, drunk on brandy, shouting poems. You had to deal with both. Fights broke out. Knives flashed. Sometimes you found bodies before anyone else. You carried a whistle, but no one always came. Justice, that was a matter of who showed up first, you or the crowd. Because in 18th century Paris, mob justice was common. Thieves were sometimes beaten in the streets before you could intervene. False accusations turned deadly, and once a rumor spread, truth didn't matter. You had no radio, no backup, only the sound of your own boots and the hope that no one saw you as the enemy. Then there was the cold. Paris, winters bit deep, and you walked for hours. No central stations, no warm breaks, only occasional inns where the innkeeper might not let you in unless you looked respectable, and you rarely did. Plague fear also lingered. Even in the 1700s, the memory of earlier outbreaks remained. If you found someone collapsed, no one would help you lift them. You were expected to deal with it, even if it killed you. And yet, you did your rounds. Not for honor, not even always for pay, but because someone had to. Because crime didn't sleep, and because the city was full of eyes watching from the dark. Being a night watchman in Paris meant knowing every creaking door, every shouting window, every alley where something might go wrong. It meant walking when others slept, listening when no one wanted to speak, and waiting, always waiting, for the sky to change color and morning bells to ring. Only then you could go home. Only then you stopped watching. The year is 1785. Paris is whispering, not of war, not of famine, but of a necklace glittering with 647 diamonds worth more than a ship of gold. A scandal is about to unfold that'll burn through court gossip, destroy reputations, and stain a queen's name forever. Even though she'd never wore the necklace, she never even wanted it. This is the story of the diamond necklace affair. The necklace itself was absurd, commissioned decades earlier by King Louis XV for his mistress, Madame du Barry, a grand, winding piece, dripping ink, designed to sit like a collar of stars. But before it could be given, the king died, the mistress was dismissed, and the necklace, it remained locked in a jeweler's vault, a monument to outdated luxury. Then came Jeanne de la Motte, a minor noblewoman, charismatic, impoverished, and very, very ambitious. She saw the necklace not as jewelry, but as an opportunity. Jeanne claimed she had access to Queen Marie Antoinette, that the queen confided in her, trusted her. It was a lie, but a well-played one, and soon she had an audience with Cardinal de Rohan, a man desperate to regain favor at court, out of grace, hungry for redemption, and convinced that if he could help the queen, he would be welcomed back into Versailles. Jeanne told him the queen wanted the necklace, but secretly, discreetly, and without the king knowing. She even arranged a nighttime meeting in the gardens of Versailles. A veiled woman approached the cardinal, spoke softly, handed him a rose. He thought it was the queen. It was not. It was a prostitute, disguised, paid by Jean. The trap was complete. Rohan contacted the jewelers. He signed for the necklace on behalf of the queen, had it delivered, and Jean, she had it taken apart, sold the diamonds piece by piece on the black market. When the fraud was uncovered, it exploded. The queen was furious. She had never seen the necklace, never spoken to Jean, never asked for anything, but the damage was done. The public, already suspicious of Marie Antoinette, believed she was hiding something, that she had tried to steal using courtly favors, that she was vain, greedy, dishonest. The nickname stuck. Madame, a public trial followed. Rohan was arrested. Jean, too, but the court cleared Rohan, a noble, a man, and punished Jean. The queen, she had no trial, only reputation loss. In truth, the affair was less about jewels and more about trust. The people no longer believed the monarchy told the truth, even when it did. And that belief, that royalty lied, would fester and grow, until a guillotine cut deeper than any diamond ever could. Scandal often begins not with blood, but with a whisper, a rumor, a glitter just out of reach. And sometimes that glitter is real, but often it is simply glass. Beneath the cobbled streets of Paris, beneath the wine shops and bakeries, below the chatter and the clatter of carriages, lies silence. A silence so complete that it presses against your ears. A silence made not of stone, but of bone. Tonight, we descend into the catacombs of Paris. It began not with death, but with collapse. In the late 1700s, the cemeteries of Paris were overflowing. The day innocence, in use for over 600 years, had become a hazard. Bodies, buried shallowly, leaked into nearby cellars. Walls bulged, air turned sour. There were tales, half true, half whispered, of bakery dough rising too fast from the gases seeping up. In 1780, a wall gave way. A cellar collapsed, spilling bones into the street. Something had to be done, and so the dead would move. The city looked beneath itself, into old limestone quarries, dug centuries earlier to build Notre Dame and other monuments. Long winding tunnels, cool, dry, forgotten, the perfect tomb. From 1786 onward, under cover of night, a slow procession began. Priests walked with lanterns, carts rolled through the streets, bones were moved in silence. No names, no ceremonies, just skulls, femurs, spines, stacked, sorted, arranged. Over the decades, millions were transferred, labeled not by person, but by cemetery and year. The Innocents, 1730, 1764. The bones became architecture. Rows of tibias lined the walls like bricks. Skulls formed patterns, crosses, alcoves. Even the dead were made to obey the geometry of the city. The catacombs stretched over 300 kilometers, but only a small part was prepared for display. The rest, still silent, still dark, still filled. In time, the catacombs gained a strange kind of fame. Romantics and revolutionaries visited by torchlight. Writers composed verses in the company of the forgotten. Napoleon's men trained there. During World War II, resistance fighters hid in the tunnels. Each era added its own layer, but the bones remained, watching. The air is still down here, cool, dry, heavy. You feel it in your lungs, in your chest. Not fear, but weight. The weight of so many stories stacked without names. The catacombs are not haunted in the way Taylor suggests. There are no ghosts, only silence, an arrangement, and the quiet echo of a city trying to bury what it could not contain. And perhaps that's what Paris always does. Above, light, laughter, decadence. Below, structure, decay, stillness, a balance, a hidden rhythm, and somewhere in between, people trying to live. The chandeliers are still glowing. The velvet curtains shimmer in the candlelight. Somewhere down the long marble corridor, a clock chimes 3. Not 3 in the afternoon, but 3 in the morning, and already footsteps echo across parquet floors. Servants are preparing. Chairs are being arranged. The ceremonial slippers laid out. Why? Because the king is about to wake up, and in Versailles, even waking up was an event. Life at the Palace of Versailles was not just elegant, it was choreographed. Built to glorify Louis XIV, the Sun King, Versailles was not merely a royal residence. It was a stage, and every day was a performance, especially at night. The king's official waking ceremony, called the lever, took place between 8 o'clock and 9 a.m., but preparation began hours earlier. Pages and servants bustled quietly. Clothes were laid out in precise order, jewels cleaned, wigs powdered. Outside the king's bedchamber, courtiers gathered, waiting, not for orders, but for the privilege of witnessing His Majesty. Get dressed. There were ranks of permission. The higher your nobility, the closer you could stand. One might be allowed to pass the shirt, another to hold the mirror, another to hand him his gloves. Even something as simple as putting on socks required an audience and a strict protocol. But this performance didn't end at sunrise. At night, Versailles never truly slept. Balls extended into the early hours. Banquets stretched from evening until midnight. Private salons, music, gambling, and discussion lasted until dawn. And every moment was watched, not just for entertainment, but for favor, to be noticed, to be remembered, to be chosen for a post, a marriage, a whisper of power. Yet, despite the gold, the mirrors, the fountains, Versailles could feel hollow. The rooms were large, but cold in winter. Fires flickered, but heat rarely stayed. The scent of perfume masked sweat, wine, and food gone sour. Privacy was almost non-existent. Even the queen had to perform her couture, her ceremonial bedtime. Attendants undressed her while others watched. A noble might be chosen to hand her the nightgown, another to extinguish the final candle. Then they left, and only then was she alone. But not truly. Guards remained nearby. Chambermaids moved through the halls. If the king came to visit, they would have known before she did. Even dreams were not private in Versailles. And yet, within this structure, there was safety. A hierarchy so rigid, it gave structure to chaos. A noble knew their role. A servant knew the rules. Everyone had a place. And within that, some found comfort. Others waited for a chance, for a change, for the whispers of revolution that would come in just a few years. The night at Versailles was velvet and gold. It shimmered, it swayed, but it was also fragile. A world balanced on etiquette and illusion. A place where waking up was as much about power as ruling a kingdom, and where sleeping was just another part of the grand performance. Tonight, you've walked a city before light. You've paced behind a lantern, feeling the weight of a pike and the judgment of strangers. You've listened to scandal unfold like silk torn in public, where jewels meant ruin. You've descended into silence, among the forgotten dead, stacked with symmetry and no names. And you've stood beneath gold ceilings, watching a man be dressed as if it were a national ceremony. This was Paris before the revolution, before electricity, before equality. A city lit by flame, divided by silk, and haunted by memory. It hummed with rules, it ached with secrets. And at night, when the noise faded, it breathed, slowly, softly, waiting.